So I'm here with Mark Richards, Principal Engineer at JCB, to talk us a little bit through how we've gone from a diesel engine to a hydrogen engine. So I'm sure it was a pretty big challenge.
Oh, yeah, it's always a great challenge to get involved in. So, but behind me here, Daniel, is basically our 4.8 litre diesel engine. So really for the last 20 years, JCB has been continually developing these engines. So these engines effectively are a common rail, direct injection diesel engine. Okay. And these today power our machines, as well as we do sell them outside of the business as well. But these engines predominantly power our backhoe loaders, our wheel loading shovels, our load all product. Really for diesel engines, diesel engine performance, efficiency over many years is really at the pinnacle now. Mm-hmm. We've got very reliable powertrain solutions, but these rely on a carbon-based fuel. So with a diesel engine, break it down, we have a turbocharger that gives us the airflow into the engine. That really gives us the air that we need to mix with the fuel. Mm-hmm. A diesel engine is compression ignition. Mm-hmm. So the piston comes up all the way nearly to TDC, where then the compressed air is very hot. Yeah. The direct injector then injects a amount of fuel, and that then instantly almost burns, creates the power which forces the piston down, which turns into a rotational point on the crankshaft and then through into the flywheel, and that is what connects to our machines. But this now is a very robust powertrain, but we recognise that we want to move to a zero carbon fuel, but we want to still maintain a lot of the engine's DNA and deliver out the flywheel, what the customer needs, that grunt from an engine.
Okay, absolutely. And I guess you've built up a substantial amount of expertise and knowledge over the years on diesel engines, so you want to retain as much of that.
We do. We've when we started, our engine development, we were like I said 20 years ago, we've really demonstrated now, not only within our business but other businesses as well, that as a manufacturer, it's nice to own as much of the product as you can.
Yes.
So we make the engines at Dove Valley Park in Foston, Derbyshire. The transmission that mounts this, we make at Wrexham, and of course we then make the product around the UK as well. So really this is the heart of the product, and because we now manufacture it, and own it, and then continue to develop it, we can really stay at the forefront of the product itself, delivering what the customer wants, that robustness.
So if we look at the hydrogen engine, what are some of the key differences?
So we changed the paint, which is the key point, a different colour. So basically, to break it down, this engine here has the same DNA as the diesel engine. So instead of 4.8 litre 4-valve per cylinder engine, we have a turbocharger. The key change is really of we're moving to a zero carbon fuel. We're moving to a hydrogen gas H2. We're moving from a liquid. So what we've really focused on in the last 5-6 years we've been developing this engine is a lot of people have basically made hydrogen engines work before, but they've done a lot of conversion. What I mean by conversion is you take a petrol or diesel engine, you add some hydrogen, and yes, they run, but they don't run very well. And by running well, I mean they don't get to the efficiencies that we want, they don't get to the emissions that we need to get to, but you can make them run. But what we focused on was how do you make it run well? And really, to break it down, we've split it up into sections. So first of all, the fuel. We have this part here, which is the fuel rail. We store our fuel here at around 10 bar pressure. The fuel then is injected through into what's called a port injected engine. So this is a port injected engine. We inject the fuel in, it goes into the intake manifold, just as it goes down into the cylinder, into the intake, into the combustion chamber, and then we combust it. Now, compared to diesel, which relies on compression ignition, we have spark ignition. So where we'd have our diesel injectors here, we now have spark plugs. And the fuel goes in, we have a mixing process, a homogeneous mix. That's actually one of the key challenges, to mix the fuel and air perfectly to get what's called a perfect charge. Like baking a cake, you want the absolute perfect for you bake it as such. And then we are really focused on keeping the combustion temperatures and pressures really cool. So for years with our diesel engine, we've always gone high temperature, high pressure. That allows us to extract the maximum amount of energy out of the fuel. But when you've got high pressure and high temperature, you create a lot of emissions in the cylinder. With hydrogen, if I were to hold a kilogram of hydrogen in this hand, I would need over 3 litres of diesel to be the equivalent energy based on the weight.
So it's more energy dense.
It's more energy dense from a weight perspective.
Yeah.
So we have a small amount of hydrogen in, a lot of air coming in.
Yeah.
We mix it, we ignite it with a spark plug. We then effectively get the combustion, where we actually produce a little bit of water,
Yes.
H2O, because of the combustion.
Yeah.
We get the power stroke coming down, and then effectively that goes into the crankshaft. So from that point then, we end up with the same power, same torque as the 55 kilowatt diesel in the hydrogen engine.
They are comparable.
They are comparable. So if you were to get into a backhoe loader, 55 kilowatt and a 55 kilowatt diesel, you wouldn't tell the difference. The only difference you would hear, the engine's a little bit quieter.
Okay.
So out of the tailpipe, you don't get that loud like diesel, not that really high power noise.
Yeah.
You actually get a little bit of a softer noise.
Okay.
And what's really nice is with our diesel engines, in order to meet the current emission legislation in the UK, which is stage 5 across Europe, we have to have what's called after treatment on the engine.
Yeah.
And you'll notice after treatment over the years has got more complicated. So we've got DOC, DPF, SCR, AdBlue, all the things which a lot of customers don't particularly like, but they have to have it to be emission compliant. The hydrogen engine, we've got to stage 5 certification without any conventional after treatment.
Okay.
So there's no SCR, no DPF, no AdBlue, because of how clean we are keeping the combustion in the cylinder.
You mentioned that if you're not getting that full combustion, you can have, or rather at higher temperature pressures, you do get some pollutants. What would they be on a...
So on a diesel engine, pollutants generally, of course, we get CO2 and we get NOx, NOx's. And that is because of the temperature in the cylinder. We've really that's temperature in the high temperature cylinder. The nitrogen in the air effectively decomposes with that, forms into combines with some of the oxygen and forms NOx's of nitrogen. We're keeping the combustion temperature and pressure low here, so we don't get those in-cylinder emissions. That's the real key. A lot of conversions and a lot of different areas like that, they still produce that NOx.
Because I was thinking, if only hydrogen's going in, but it's obviously that mixing with nitrogen, atmospheric nitrogen.
So the air we breathe, 73% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and then we have a small amount of other gases. That's the bit which comes into the turbocharger. Now, really, the base engine, everything predominantly in green. So on our engines, we have the sump, the bed plate, the block, the cylinder head, and then the cylinder, then the rocker cover. Everything in green stays the same predominantly on a diesel engine compared to a hydrogen engine. And 60% of the components in the hydrogen engine are actually British sourced.
Oh, brilliant.
So again, British engineering, 60% of the components in this system are from British manufacturers, effectively from that point. So now, when we combust in the cylinder, we get the hydrogen oxygen combining with together. We actually have a little bit of water. So we've actually done a lot of work on the lubrication strategy of the engine. So we actually recruited our first chemist, Dr. Doris. She's been with the business, and what she's focused on is the oil in this engine is designed to hold the water in suspension. And then at a certain temperature, then it actually releases it back through the CCV system, and effectively so that we don't have any problems with water anywhere we don't want it. That's one of the beauties about it. But you lift the bonnet of the backhoe loader, and instantly it's an engine. It's very familiar territory if you want to service it, maintain it, and really over the last 5 years we've done 50,000 hours of validation. We've done 25,000 kilometres on the road, driving the machines on the road, and really this is now production for us. The generator which this goes into, you can buy that, it's production, and then the backhoe will shortly follow, followed by later, probably into Q1, Q2, the load all as well. But from our side, this 55 kilowatt hydrogen combustion engine is ready to go.
Excellent. And what's the power rating of this unit?
So this is 55 kilowatts, 74 horsepower.
So obviously the race machine, the driving machine, is substantially more than that. How
we do that? So we'll touch on that. So we've taken the engine from 74 horsepower to 800 horsepower, which is huge.
Ridiculous.
10.8 times, I think, if you work it out from that side. Another thing we've done to the engine is increase the rated speed of the engine. So our diesel engines and the production hydrogen engines, the rated speed is about 2,200 RPM. That's enough so that, for example, some of our backhoe loaders can go 50 kph on the road. when we go faster in terms of the wheel speed of the car through the gearbox, you also need a higher RPM of the engine. So this engine now is at 3,800 RPM, so just under 4,000 RPM on the flywheel side, just to give us that speed of the engine. But fundamentally, it comes back down to the principle of combustion process. So what we've done is we've really focused on where can we get more power out the engine and what do we need to do. So the engine is still turbocharged. It's a single stage turbocharger running there. It's running about 3.5 bar of boost at full load. In terms of, so we've got a lot of volume of air flowing through the engine. This engine, as if you remember, this is called a port fuel injection, PFI engine. In order to get the correct amount of fuel into the engine to develop the 800 horsepower, we need to move to a different strategy. And what we've done is we've moved to something called direct injection. Direct injection, or DI, effectively means that we can inject fuel at a higher pressure. So previously we were about 10 bar here. In the race engine we're somewhere close to 50 bar rail pressure. That means when the injector opens and the fuel goes into the cylinder, we get more fuel going in over a short period of time. That fuel then mixes with the air, we get that nice clean homogeneous mix, and then we ignite it with spark plugs to make it effectively go off. Now we've got the air coming in, we've got the right amount of fuel. The next thing is how we get the gases in and how we get the exhaust gases out. And you'll notice on the engine, when you see it, we've actually gone to a strategy of a double overhead cam arrangement. So this engine here, along with our diesel, you'll notice, if you can see from here, we've got our gear train that runs the front of the engine. We have a camshaft that runs through the engine. We then have followers and then push rods. So these engines are basically a push rod engine. The push rod goes up, moves the rocker, and opens and closes the valves. Now, when we've gone for a higher speed engine, we need a different way of controlling the valve timing, or the valve events. So we've done that with a double overhead cam. So the cam lobe, or the camshafts, have moved up to the top of the engine. We've got double overhead for each side of the intake and exhaust. We then have the belt which runs round, and that allows us basically to get more precision and precise valve timing as we move through.
Which you need for that higher RPM.
Correct. So you think of the old Lotuses, the old double overhead cam, the twin cam. That's what we've got on this race engine as well. Really, the next point is keeping the engine cool. So we're producing a lot more power, so we have more thermal energy going out into the metal, the grey cast iron or the cylinder head. So what we've done is we've increased the coolant flow. So on the engine we have our coolant pump, which spins round and propels coolant around the engine. We've increased the flow rate of that, so we get a higher volume of coolant going through. And if you notice in the car, the engine is actually tilted. It's actually clocked at just under 90 degrees angle. We've done that, one, because the engine actually, even though we've reduced the weight by 100 kilograms, without using Ozempic, we can't use that as engineers, we have to use engineering to do that, but the engine has lost a reasonable amount of weight. That has allowed us, one, on the rotating parts to reduce some of the inertia, so we can get to higher RPMs quicker in terms of revving up to those speeds, but it means that the centre of mass of the vehicle stays very low. Centre of mass low, great for stability. What that does mean is that traditionally we have a sump on our engines. All engines have a sump. On a digger or a backhoe load or wheel loading shovel, that sump is designed to have a certain volume, so that if you go over rough ground, the engine has always got something to pick up from.
It relies being at the bottom
but
of the
it relies
engine.
being on the bottom. So when you tilt it, a sump isn't very good. So what we've gone for is something called a dry sump. So dry sumps are basically where you have what's called a scavenger pump, and you'll see it on the car. It's a black object with multiple ports coming out and a pulley driven, belt driven. That effectively scavenges the oil that comes out. We then have a tank which holds that, but effectively then the pump injects the engine injects the oil into the engine at different points through any of the orifices. We actually, at peak speed, we're flowing a litre of oil a second.
Substantial cooling
So you
power.
think if I had a carton of orange juice a litre, I couldn't squeeze it out fast enough for how fast that's moving through. And that really allows us to keep the oil flowing through. We've got a lot of extra piston cooling, so the pistons go up and down. You have the skirt of the piston. In the engine we have piston cooling jets, which basically squirt oil
on the underside.
We've got a higher flow through those to keep everything nice and cool within limits, within tolerance. And really for us, those are the big changes. So we've got better air and fuel going in.
Yeah.
We've got more fuel going in because we're producing more power, more heat rejection. We have a larger amount of cooling going through. And my favourite component, Daniel, of the whole point is you notice the car hasn't got any radiators. We rely on ice cooling to really flow through its veins. And when the air comes out of the turbocharger, before it enters the intake manifold, we've got to cool it.
Right, okay.
Usually on an automotive car, you'd have a nice big intercooler, big radiator, but that relies on airflow.
Yeah.
We can't have airflow because we're in our aerodynamics.
Yes.
So what we have is a small object, and you'll see it's got 2 purple clamps on it. That is a charge cooler.
Yeah.
So the charge cooler can take the air coming in, which is about 200 degrees Celsius. After it's gone through and it's additive manufactured, 3D printed, it's a beautiful piece of design.
Yeah.
It comes through. When it exits, it's less than 10 degrees Celsius.
Wow, very
in a
rapid
split
cooling.
second.
Yeah.
And that allows us to get the high, dense air coming into the engine. We then mix it with the fuel. We get that clean but powerful combustion.
Let the engine breathe.
And let the engine breathe.
Brilliant.
And that's how we go from our diesel engine with our years of reliability and progress, moving into our recent production hydrogen engine. And now as a business, same as we did with the diesel engine 20 years ago, we want to demonstrate how reliable and robust this product is, and what way to do it better than to set a land speed record.
Brilliant. Thank you
Daniel,
very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.